Alrighty, folks, it is Tuesday morning, and it is time for a visit from Ron, the car guy from Westside Auto Pros. And last week at this time, Ron, we're talking about this scare we had of how cold it got. Although yesterday, east of Des Moines, it was 88.5 degrees.
Would that be in Lutuna?
That would be there, yeah.
The weather station,
the official weather station.
In
but
Lutuna.
You still have to realize things are getting cold, and we chatted a little bit last week about the fact that we need to start thinking about this.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one thing, and people probably don't want to hear about this, but I was thinking about it yesterday. Cars that come into the shop today for an oil change, we likely are going to have snow on the ground. We'll definitely have cold weather the next time I see that car, the next time it's due for service. And so,
yeah, that's true.
Even though it's 80-some degrees outside, and we've got the sunroof open and probably have the air conditioning on, we've got to be aware of what's coming down the road and getting the cars ready for wintertime.
All right, now would we be preparing our cars now for this, or would you want to wait a little bit?
I'd do it now.
Okay.
Because
it's not too early.
No, heavens no. And if you wait until it's too late, then there's probably going to be a wait to get into the shop. Or you're going to wait a little bit too long and you're going to be having a problem, which is why you want to get into the shop.
Okay, so the things that we're going to talk about here today, this is something that will not, be detrimental to your vehicle. It's just going to be proactive.
Proactive and peace of mind. Peace of mind's worth something.
All right.
All right, so what do I need to do to my vehicle to get it ready for the cold season?
Well, the first thing is you want to make sure that the oil's changed and that all the fluids are not only full but in good condition. Because if you stop and think about it, there's a lot of fluids in the car other than oil. You've got fluids in like gearboxes and the power steering system, the transmission, and all those fluids are kind of like me. When they get cold, they kind of move slow and they just don't have the dance moves down.
Yeah, but some of those fluids you don't need to totally change those. You just need to make sure that there's plenty in there, right?
Correct. Or if they are due for service, that they've been changed. They just need to be looked at. Someone needs to inspect them or test them. A great analogy is, as fluids get older, compare it to syrup that you would put on your waffles. The fluids start out like Aunt Jemima Light. They move and they pour real quick, and then over time the additives break down and they become Aunt Jemima Regular, and they're kind of thick and they move slow in the cold weather. So we want to make sure that stuff's going to move and work in order for the car to function properly.
Yeah, and last week we talked about fluids you don't even think about usually, so go to weareiowa.com or Westside Auto Pros to check out those videos as well.
Great advice. The other thing that I'm big on is have the battery tested.
Does that do any good? Because I feel like you can wake up one day and it just doesn't work. So if I get it tested today, it'll tell me tomorrow that it's not going to turn over?
It will most...
Or spark.
Spark. Most quality testers have a state of health report.
Okay.
So how does that work?
It's kind of like if you do a treadmill test. Everything shows up, you're feeling okay, but you do a treadmill test and it'll say, hey, you're a little shaky here, you're a little shaky there. Maybe we should, do a more in-depth test on your cardiovascular.
So it puts a load on the battery.
It does put a load on the battery, and on today, some of the newer batteries, we're actually testing what they call conductance, which we're measuring what's going through the plates of the battery. It gets a little complex, but I can measure the health of your battery. I can tell you if your battery's 80% of what it was new, 50% of what it was new, or 20%. A battery that's 20% of what it was new will start the car fine today, but I'll guarantee you when it gets cold, it won't. And we go on all of these jump start and battery replacement calls every day of the week in our mobile service. And I mean, you just look at this, and so much of that can be prevented. And we know when it gets cold, it's not going to be a 30 or 40 minute wait for someone to come out and jumpstart your car.
Right.
It's going to be a 3 or 4 hour wait because of everybody else. And even looking at the battery, just take a look at the corrosion on the terminals and stuff. I mean, all that's going to come into play. The electrical system has to be operating top notch when the temperature drops.
Especially nowadays. Yeah.
Exactly, because everything relies on the electrical system. But it has to be spot on, or you're going to have problems.
All right.
Okay, good to know.
Tires. We talk about tires in a lot of our shows. Have the tread depth measured. Right now the DOT considers a tire at 232 or less tread depth illegal to drive on. If you've got 4, 5 32 tread depth, you might want to think about putting tires on for the winter time. They would be great if it was May and we're rolling into the summer, but we're going to rely on these tires to give us traction in the snow, the ice, the slush, and you need good, deep tread depth to do that. And if you've got a car that's historically known for having bad traction in the wintertime, and we can talk about this at an upcoming show, but consider a set of winter tires. I mean, they're one of the most amazing things.
Is it too soon for those right now?
It depends. I mean, we might be pushing the envelope a little bit on that. I mean, we've got winter tires for all of our shuttle vehicles and the mobile service vehicles. We usually put those on, mid-November.
Okay.
Let us know when Ron the Car Guy puts his snow tires on for his service vehicles. That'll be your signal to put yours on.
When he puts his snow tires and his snowsuit on, then it's time for you to get.
It's time.
Yep, time for you to suit up. A couple of other tips: wash the exterior of the car. Get a coat of wax put on it. We're using more and more salt. The state and the cities have gone back to salt instead of other chemicals because they found that it treats the road the best, but it doesn't treat your car the best. So get some protection put on that thing, so we don't have the rust. Spark plugs, we want to make sure and have those inspected. They're hard to get at on some cars, but usually there's one that you can pull out and take a look at and have it measured, the gap on it, because the computers on today's cars will mask problems where spark plugs that were maybe worn an extra 10 thousandths or something in the past, the car would misfire or not run properly. The computer can cover that up.
It'll
it's
compensate. Yeah.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden it gets really cold and the computer can't compensate for a weak spark.
Right.
And now the car cranks and won't start and we tow it in and it's flooded. So that's something that we see more common now than we did years ago is because they're forgotten about.
Now, are there any special kind of spark plugs you would put in for the winter, or is a regular spark plug
Put in what the manufacturer recommends. Okay. There's nothing fancy above and beyond.
You see all the ads, all over the internet.
They have spent millions of dollars researching and engineering what goes into that engine. Nothing's going to work better than what they already have in there.
Okay.
And then the last thing, and this is kind of cool, it's something we often forget about, but being in the mobile service business, we run into lockouts. People will call us in the wintertime and they're like, my car, I can't unlock my door, my locks don't work. Well, it isn't the locks that aren't working, the doors froze shut. And maybe the car was washed or we had some snow and it melted and then it froze again that night. And it's really preventable. If you go to the lock cylinder where the key goes in, the latch on the side of the door, spray it with some WD-40 or a penetrant because that will repel the water. And then also the weather strip that goes around there. Make sure and put some kind of a lubricant on it. I mean, not a petroleum-based, but maybe a water-based lubricant or a silicone. Silicone works really good. And that'll prevent that rubber from freezing against the car so the door will open.
All right, real quick, we have a couple things here we want to touch on. If you're storing your vehicle, Ron, you brought a couple of items.
I do. Make sure and treat the fuel. That's first and foremost, whether it be a lawnmower or your car. There's a lot of products on the market. Stable's the one that I use.
Most popular one, yeah.
Most popular one. And then if you either need to disconnect the battery if you're going to store your car, or I recommend putting a battery maintainer on. And the key word is this is a maintainer, not a charger. It's meant to maintain the charge in the battery, not charge a discharged battery.
Great for motorcycles as well. Well, we want to remind everybody that there's other things you need to be or have in your vehicle if you're getting ready for winter. So we have a little prize we're giving away if people mention that they saw you on CW Iowa Live.
Or if they mention Lou and Jackie sent me, because nobody's going to remember me.
Oh, whatever.
Come on in. We'll give you a free windshield scraper. We've been giving these away for almost 5 years now. They're almost indestructible. I mean, it's a really good quality scraper. And then in the summertime, you can take it in the kitchen and use it for pancakes.
All right, so just go on in there and grab yourself a nice scraper. Thank you, Ron the Car Guy. We'll be right back. This is CWI.